When individuals consider aging, most picture their 60s or perhaps early 70s. Retirement adventures, possibly enjoying extra moments with loved ones, or picking up a pastime yet. Few openly discuss what truly occurs beyond age 80. It's as if past 80, the world grows silent. You rarely find commercials praising life at 80-5. You seldom hear tales on broadcasts about flourishing 90-year-olds on daily chats. People hush their voices when mentioning someone in their 80s as if it's already the start of the finish. But here's the reality. Reaching 80 doesn't mean existence halts. It simply transforms in ways most don't anticipate, and few wish to address. Behind courteous grins and warm salutations at medical visits or birthday wishes, something profound is unfolding for many elders: a change in self, a silent sorrow for unvoiced losses, and a constant struggle to remain noticed in a world gradually turning away. This isn't a tale of dread, it's a tale of truth, and more crucially, it's a tale of understanding. Because when we can identify what's truly occurring, we grant ourselves the strength to alter how we react to it. In this presentation, we'll unveil the reality of what life past 80 often looks and feels like, from emotional solitude to subtle bodily decline, and from loss of direction to how society quietly shifts its focus. Some of what you'll hear may seem weighty, some of it may feel strikingly familiar, but all of it counts. Because how we age beyond 80 isn't just about physiology, it's about respect, connection, and honesty. So, if you're over 80, nearing it, or care for someone who is, stay with me. You won't find this kind of candor in many places, but that's precisely why it could change everything. Let's start. Most folks think aging past 80 is just more of the same: more silver hair, more clinic visits, and more relaxation, but that's not entirely accurate. What truly happens after 80 isn't bold or abrupt, it's hushed, slow, unseen by those not experiencing it. And that's what makes it so tough to discuss. Because the greatest shifts after 80 don't appear in medical scans or lab results, they emerge in the quiet corners of everyday existence, and unless someone highlights them, they stay misinterpreted, overlooked, or worse, entirely disregarded. So, let's explore what's really happening. First, there's emotional contraction. You may still visit relatives or chat with neighbors, but something feels altered. Conversations grow briefer, invitations dwindle. Friends relocate or pass on. And even when you're not alone, you can feel isolated. It's not theatricalites, just quieter. And that stillness begins to settle within you. Then comes the body's withdrawal. Tasks you once did effortlessly now demand forethought. Rising from a seat takes more effort. Your steadiness isn't what it was, and recovery from tiredness isn't as swift. And so, gradually, you begin opting out. To avoid stares, let others carry the shopping. Choose sitting over strolling. That it seems minor, but over time, these small decisions reshape your existence. There's also the loss of personal cadence. Days blend together. No longer anchored by a packed schedule, no work hours, no school runs, no appointments to hold you back. Mornings drag. Afternoons weigh heavy, and nights arrive too soon. Without meaningful structure, time feels elusive. And when days lose form, so can your sense of direction, and then there's the emotional burden of unexpressed sorrow. By 80, you've lost more than most can fathom: siblings, partners, dear friends, even offspring, and yet, life expects you to press on. People praise your resilience, but no one inquires about your grief. You stop mentioning it not because you're done mourning, but because you don't want to trouble others with your sadness. Finally, there's the subtle truth that society gradually retreats. People speak to you more slowly, or not at all. Clerks overlook you. Family visits feel brief. The world rushes forward, and you wonder if there's still a place for you in it. This is what happens after 80, not because someone decides it, but because it seeps in through routine, through assumptions, through the quiet erosion of engagement, connection, and purpose. And yet, knowing these realities isn't a reason to surrender. It's the reason to push back with awareness, with purpose, and with small acts that preserve your independence, your energy, and your voice. Because the greatest risk after 80 isn't sickness, it's invisibility. And once we identify what's truly happening, we can begin to reclaim something more potent than youth: dignity, presence, and purpose, even in the most unforeseen years of our lives. Sign 1. Emotional solitude. Even when surrounded, one of the most unexpected and painful realities about life after 80 is this: you can be surrounded by people and still feel utterly alone. This kind of solitude isn't about physical seclusion. It's about emotional disconnection, a quiet sense that no one truly sees you anymore, that your presence, while noted, no longer holds weight in the room. You smile, you listen, you nod, but inside, there's a silence growing, one that few notice and even fewer inquire about. Why does this happen? Part of it is generational. Many elders were taught to be resilient, to hold emotions in, to never burden others with their feelings. So, when sadness arrives and it does, they don't voice it. When grief lingers and it does, they suppress it. And over time, this self-silencing becomes an invisible cage. There's also the natural thinning of social circles. Close friends pass away, weekly gatherings fade, family gets occupied. Even if they still call or visit, it's not quite the same. And because you don't want to seem needy, you stay silent. You quietly adapt to a life that feels a little emptier. And here's the twist: the lonelier you feel, the less you reach out. You begin to withdraw, keeping conversations shallow, pretending everything's fine, even when you wish someone would ask what's really going on. And because no one asks, the solitude deepens, not from a lack of people, but from a lack of true connection. Take Martha, for example, 84, living with her daughter's family. She sees them daily, but between school runs, work calls, and evening routines, no one truly converses with her, not the way they once did. So, she smiles politely at dinner, thanks them for the tea, and retreats to her room, heart heavy, eyes empty. If you're over 80 and this resonates, you're not flawed, you're human, and what you're feeling is valid. But emotional solitude doesn't have to be permanent. One deep conversation, one letter sent, one honest response to "How are you?" These small moments can rekindle connection. Because even in the quietest years, you still deserve to be heard. Sign 2. Physical withdrawal. When the body starts resisting. One of the hardest changes after 80 isn't Panette's hesitation. Pause before rising from a chair, before stepping into the shower, before bending to pick something up. Not because you're idle, but because your body started saying no more often than yes. This slow physical withdrawal doesn't happen all at once. It's not a dramatic fall or a shocking diagnosis. It's subtler: a quiet stiffness in the morning, more breathlessness after stairs, a fear of slipping on the floor, and so, gradually, you begin doing less. At first, it feels wise, cautious, maybe even safe, but the longer you avoid movement, the more unfamiliar it becomes. Your muscles weaken, your balance shifts, your reflexes dull, and before long, things you once did effortlessly, reaching a high shelf, kneeling to garden, carrying a basket, now feel like tasks requiring preparation, or worse, avoidance. It's not just the body that withdraws, the mind does too. You start questioning yourself. What if I fall? What if I can't get up? What if no one hears me? And with every what if, your world shrinks a little more. But here's the truth: motion is memory. When you stop moving, your body forgets how, and that forgetting can age you faster than time ever could. Take Harold, 81, who used to stroll around the block every evening. But after tripping once on uneven pavement, he stopped just being cautious. He told himself. Within 6 months, his legs weakened, his balance faltered, and his confidence faded. Harold didn't stop because he was old, he got old because he stopped. The good news: the body remembers too gently, patiently, but it does. Stretch your arms overhead in the morning, stand without using your hands. Walk the hallway twice instead of once. You don't need marathons, you need movement with purpose. Because every time you move, You're telling your body, I'm still here. I still matter. Keep going. And after 80, that message may be the most potent medicine of all. Sign 3. Loss of personal cadence and direction by the time many reach their 80s. A subtle shift occurs that few are ready for. The fading of daily cadence and personal direction. In earlier decades, your days were shaped by duties and responsibilities. You rose for work, drove kids to school, cooked meals, paid bills, kept appointments. There was always something to do, and with it, a reason to rise, move, and engage. But after 80, those anchors often vanish. There's no job to attend, the phone rings less. Family visits are sporadic. Slowly, the calendar empties, leaving vast stretches of unscheduled time. At first, this feels like freedom, but over time, it can feel like drifting. You wake up, but feel no urgency to get dressed. You eat lunch, but can't recall what you did that morning. You sit by the window, watching hours pass, not bored, exactly, but not energized either. Without cadence, days blur, and without direction, even good health can feel oddly hollow. What most don't realize is that the human body and mind thrive on structure, especially in later years. Routine gives life texture. Purpose gives it direction. When those are missing, the body slows, the mind quiets, and the heart whispers, "What am I here for?" Take Esther, 87. After her husband passed away, her book club stopped, and her volunteer role ended. Her days grew quieter, and so did she. "I don't feel like myself anymore," she told her doctor, not from illness, but because the cadence of her life had gone silent. The fix isn't grandiose, it's gentle and personal. Watering plants at the same time daily, writing postcards every Sunday, listening to a favorite radio show with morning tea. Small habits, repeated with care, become sacred. They turn blank days into meaningful chapters. Because after 80, purpose doesn't need to be grandiose, just needs to be yours. And if you have anything that makes you look forward to tomorrow, you're not just living, you're alive in every sense that matters. Sign 4. Unspoken fears about decline and respect. After 80, many elders quietly carry a heavy truth. They fear becoming a burden, but they rarely say it aloud. Instead, it shows in small, careful behaviors. You hesitate to ask for help, avoid mentioning pain to spare your children worry, pretend you're not lonely to avoid seeming needy. On the surface, everything looks calm, but underneath, there's worry. What if I fall and no one finds me? What if I forget something important again? What if my family thinks I'm slipping? What if they start deciding for me? These aren't irrational thoughts, they're rooted in the real experiences of aging. When even well-meaning help can feel like a loss of control, and control is tied to respect. When you've lived 8 decades, raised families, worked jobs, survived losses, the last thing you want is to feel like you're fading into the background of your own life. But here's the tragedy. Because these fears are rarely voiced, they often go unnoticed. Family may think you're fine while you're quietly grieving every lost piece of independence. From no longer driving to needing help with simple tasks. And because you don't want to burden others, you hide how hard it is. Take Frank, 85, once a proud carpenter, now avoiding asking for help with tasks like opening jars or putting on shoes. "I don't want to bother anyone," he says, but inside, he misses feeling capable. The silence around his fear makes him feel lonelier than any physical symptom could. But here's the truth. Needing support isn't failure or weakness, it's life. And it's okay. Speaking your fears aloud even once can be liberating. It gives your family a chance to listen with care, your doctor a chance to offer solutions, and most of all, it gives you permission to be human. Because after 80, respect isn't about doing everything yourself, it's about being seen, heard, and supported without shame. You are still you, still whole, and your voice still matters. Sign 5. Shrinking world syndrome. When life becomes too small, a subtle shift occurs in many people after 80. The world around them begins to contract. It starts subtly. You stop visiting that favorite store because it's too far. Avoid evening outings because driving at night feels risky, or cancel lunch with a friend because the weather is too chilly or the stairs are too steep, and before you know it, your world, once wide and vibrant, is reduced to a few rooms and a handful of routines. This isn't laziness, it's a protective instinct. Your body is conserving energy, your mind is avoiding risk, your heart is adjusting to a quieter pace. But here's the cost. When your environment shrinks, so does your stimulation, mood, and sense of aliveness. Sound, movement. Conversation feed the brain, keeping us sharp, curious, engaged. When you see new faces, hear new voices, or experience new scenery, your brain sparks. It knows it's part of a dynamic, living world. But when each day feels like the last, same chair, same hallway, same silence, the mind turns inward, and sometimes it doesn't like what it finds. Take Lorraine, 89, who loved her Saturday salon visits, library trips, and market strolls, but after a hip injury, she stopped them all. It felt easier to stay home, she said. Months later, her daughter noticed Lorraine wasn't just less mobile, she was less joyful, less talkative, less herself. That's the hidden cost of a shrinking world. You lose the sparks that remind you you're alive. The good news: you don't need grand adventures to reverse this. Open your blinds in the morning, let the light flood in, step onto your porch to watch the birds, and ask a neighbor for a brief chat. Rearrange your living room, try a small new hobby, let something change. Variety isn't a luxury in later life, it's mental nourishment. And if your world has shrunk, it's not too late to gently stretch it open again. Even one new experience a week can reignite the truth: you're still here, and there's more life to live. Each of the 5 signs we've explored: emotional solitude, physical withdrawal, loss of cadence and direction, silent fears about respect, and a shrinking world may seem small alone, but together they reveal a deeper truth about aging after 80. It's not always the body that fades first, it's the spirit. Most expect old age to bring physical changes: slower steps, stiffer joints, more pills on the counter. But what truly surprises people is the emotional and mental shift, the quiet erosion of identity, direction, and connection that begins when the world stops expecting much from you. After 80, life doesn't usually unravel in dramatic moments. It fades in quiet ways. Conversation you didn't join because you felt overlooked. A walk you skipped because staying put was easier. A thought you kept silent because you weren't sure anyone cared. And as these moments pile up, a dangerous narrative forms. Maybe I don't matter as much anymore, but that's the lie of aging, and we must challenge it. Your presence is still powerful, your memories, your wisdom. You're still beating heart, all of it still carries weight. And the signs we've explored don't have to be warnings, they can be invitations. Invitations to reach out, to move, to speak candidly, to reclaim small joys, and to remind the world and yourself that you're still here. What these signs really show is that longevity isn't just about organs that function or bones that hold. It's about connection, confidence, curiosity, and continuity, the things that keep your soul awake. So, if you see yourself in any of these signs, know this: it's not too late to shift the story. Not to erase aging, but to age with fullness, with intention, and with the quiet courage to say, I'm not done yet. If you've made it this far in the presentation, it means you're not just watching, you're reflecting. And that matters more than you realize. Because aging, especially after 80, isn't just about what happens to your body, it's about how you respond to it, with courage, with honesty, with tenderness for yourself. You may have seen pieces of yourself in the signs we discussed: moments of hesitation, quiet solitude, or the slow fading of direction. But if those stirred something in you, that's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign you're still awake to your life. And here's the truth: you're not behind. You're not broken, you're human. Living in a season few understand until they arrive. But what if this season, right now, could be one of the most meaningful chapters yet? Not because of what you do for others, but because of how you choose to honor your own time, your own body, your own voice. Maybe that means reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Stepping outside to feel the breeze, asking for help without guilt, or starting a new ritual to bring cadence back to your mornings. Small actions, quiet decisions, that's how we rewrite what it means to age. Because the real question isn't how long we live, it's how deeply we choose to live each day we're given. So, if something in this message touched you, share it, leave a comment. Let others know they're not alone. And more importantly, let yourself know it's not too late to move, to change, to come alive again. You're still here. And that means the story isn't over.